मास्टर शेफ एक ऐसा कोई ऑर्गेनाइजेशन नहीं है जो आपको एक सर्टिफिकेट देता है कि आप मास्टर शेफ बन गए, आपको एग्जाम पास करनी पड़ती है। बट जो लोग मास्टर शेफ करके निकलते हैं वहां से, आर दे गुड और नॉट?
उनको घर का खाना बनाने को आता है। उनका स्किल्स लेवल्स on what scale 1 to 10, it's a 1. Butter chicken is yesterday's cooked chicken. Wow. Put in a gravy 90% of the time.
Would you say like a Sanjeev Kapoor is a good businessman?
He's an excellent businessman, I'd say. But as a chef, I've eaten at Yellow Chili and sorry, the food is...
What happens to any of the dishes which actually get sent by the guests back to the kitchen?
These guys normally keep it on the side and sometimes...
Hi Michael, and आपका स्वागत है. Welcome to Expert Talk with Bhavya Desai. काफी इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक है आज, because everybody is a self-proclaimed foodie. मतलब मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि इंडिया में स्पेशली बिकॉज एक बहुत ही फूड कल्चर ड्रिवन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन सॉरी कंट्री है, सो उस वजह से आई थिंक एवरीबडी इज सेल्फ प्रोक्लेम फूडी, एवरीबडी हैज थॉट्स ऑन फूड, एंड ऑफ कोर्स आप एक सेलिब्रेटेड शेफ हैं, प्लस ऑल्सो फोटोग्राफर हुज डन अ लॉट ऑफ वर्क इन फूड फोटोग्राफी एज वेल. एंड मैं अपने व्यूअर्स को ये भी बताना चाहूँगा कि आप इंस्ट्रूमेंटल थे इन टर्म्स ऑफ मास्टर शेफ इंडिया में भी. सीजन 2 पूरा, इफ आई एम नॉट मिस्टेकन, करेक्ट मी इफ आई एम रॉन्ग, आपकी टीम और आपने पूरा क्यूरेशन किया था पूरे फूड का, पूरे शो का. सो आई इफ आई एम नॉट रॉन्ग, दैट्स व्हाट ग्रेट. तो स्वागत है. हाउ आर यू?
मैं बिल्कुल ठीक हूँ और बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपको मुझे बुलाने के लिए इधर or to talk on the topic of being a chef.
Right. Yeah, it's very exciting because I think एक जैसे बोलते हैं कि किसी के भी दिमाग में जाने के लिए you actually need to the ways through their stomach. And of course, if you are not comfortable in Hindi, then please stick to English, whatever you are comfortable with. But first question I wanted to ask is very bare basic, and I still don't know the answer. That's why I thought a professional like you can answer this. Who is a chef?
I'll give you the example of a company.
Okay.
Would you say that the peon or a manager is the CEO of the company?
No.
No. And that is what a chef is. A chef is essentially a leader. He has come up the ranks. उसको सब कुछ basics मालूम है, but basics से ज़्यादा accounts, leadership, managerial qualities, PR qualities, marketing qualities, ये सब जानने के बाद वो शेफ बनता है. The word chef is a German word for manager.
Oh.
So a home cook cannot call themselves a chef because they don't know the basics. We talk about Anthony Bourdain, great chef, wonderful chef, but he started out as a dishwasher. वो पहला डिश वॉशिंग कर रहा था, उसमें से वो कुक बनाया, कुक से शेफ बनाया, शेफ से टीवी शेफ बनाया. वो पूरा जर्नी कर दिया है. आजकल की शेफ लोग जो आता है कॉलेज से, वो डिश वॉशिंग नहीं करने का चाहता है. वो सीधा बोलते हैं मैं कॉलेज किया है तो मैं सूस शेफ बन गया, मैं CDP बन गया, मेरे को 3 साल के अंदर मेरे को टीवी शेफ बनाने का चाहता हूँ. तो हम लोग जो नीचे से ऊपर गया, तो हम लोग देखते हैं कि ये अगर आप बेसिक्स नहीं जानते हैं, हाउ कैन यू कॉल योरसेल्फ अ शेफ? You have to get the essential qualities of leadership.
Right. मतलब someone who's come from a grind, मतलब और सब कुछ ही like same जैसे कोई भी एक like you use the example of a CEO, तो अपने कंपनी में उसको हर एक डिपार्टमेंट का आइडिया होता है. Possibly they've like been through that system and then फिर बाद में उन लोग ऊपर आए हैं. एंथनी बॉर्डन की भी आपने बात की, lovely show. I used to love his shows. Unbelievable travel and उनमें भी एक ऐसी क्वालिटी थी जो एक्चुअली व्यूअर को पकड़ के रखती थी, इवन व्हेन यू टॉक एज वेल, यू नो. व्हाट डू यू थिंक अबाउट जेमी ऑलिवर?
Brilliant presenter.
Superb, right?
Superb.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is he knows how to cook also.
Yeah.
So आजकल everybody wants to become an actor, they don't want to become a chef or become a cook.
I understand. Right.
So I just call these TV cooks, they're not even TV chefs, they're TV cooks or TV actors. Because you still have to be connected to the kitchen to call yourself a chef.
Got it. मतलब वो ऐसे more ऐसे बन गए कि more of a brand है अभी and a businessman rather than still chefs so that अभी भी किचन में जाके they do stuff. Interesting. ये shows के बारे में और ये सब चीजों के बारे में definitely I want to talk about because who doesn't know MasterChef? Probably one of the most watched shows on cooking in the world. तो डेफिनेटली एंड विद योर एक्सपीरियंस इंडिया के साथ में मेरे को काफी उसके बारे में जानना है बट आई वांटेड टू जस्ट कम बैक टू दिस पार्ट कि आपने बोला कि होम कुक इज नॉट अ शेफ राइट तो व्हाट इज द बेसिक टेक्निकल डिफरेंस दोनों के बीच में लाइक आई एम श्योर लाइक अभी ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम कैसे हैं हम जो घर पे हर रोज खाना बनाता है होम कुक जैसे हम बोलते हैं प्रॉब्ली इवन रेस्टोरेंट्स में भी जो छोटे छोटे रेस्टोरेंट्स होते हैं उसमें भी शेफ्स नहीं होते दे आर मोर ऑफ लाइक दोस टाइप्स तो टेक्निकली क्या डिफरेंस होता है दोनों के बीच में इन टर्म्स ऑफ स्किल्स
होम कुक उनका स्वाद होएगा उनका खाने में स्वाद होएगा लेकिन उनका जब हाइजीन आएगा व्हेन लीडरशिप क्वालिटीज आएगा एक्सपेंशन प्लान्स होएगा देन दे हैव अ प्रॉब्लम तभी इश्यू हो जाता है आप देखते हैं कि ये सब विनर्स जो टीवी शो पे आते हैं वो बोलते हैं मैं मास्टर शेफ हूँ लेकिन वो कांदा काटने को भी नहीं आते प्रोफेशनली
राइट
आप उनको दो दिन डालो प्रोफेशनल किचन में वो जिएगा भी नहीं दे विल नॉट सर्वाइव इन अ प्रोफेशनल किचन internationally there is an exam to be called a master chef. Okay, a TV show is not a professional organization giving you a title of master chef. There's no credibility behind your getting that title on a TV show. And that is what I say when आपको कुछ credibility चाहिए कि मैं शेफ हूँ मैं खाने के बारे में जानता हूँ मैं लीडरशिप के बारे में जानता हूँ because being a chef is like being a doctor. If you also look at it, as a chef, I am responsible for giving quality food to my guest. If I'm going to give food that is full of additives, chemicals, all that, and I know that it is bad for my guest, am I a credible chef? So, जो भी chef, you see a lot of chefs like Jamie Oliver, जब वो मैकडोनल्ड्स के साथ लड़ाई किया और जीता, I remember that, yeah. Then you respect him as a chef, क्योंकि वो शेफ बोल रहा है कि मैं ये खाना मैं गेस्ट को नहीं देगा, मैं बच्चों लोगों को नहीं देगा. हमेशा हम लोग जब रेस्टोरेंट खोलते हैं गेस्ट को चाहता है, गेस्ट को ये खाना चाहते हैं और अगर ये खाना गलत है और फिर भी मैं दे रहा है तो किसका नाम खराब हो जाएगा बाद में मेरा रेपुटेशन खराब हो जाएगा. सो मैं क्या बोलते हैं सब शेफ लोग स्टैंड बाय व्हाट यू कुक स्टैंड बाय व्हाट यू आर गिविंग टू अ गेस्ट. ही मे वांट बटर चिकन बट यू नो बटर चिकन इज यस्टरडेज कुक्ड चिकन पुट इन अ ग्रेवी 90% of the time.
Wow.
It's the tandoori that is all from the evening, then shredded and
wow.
Me as a chef, I will not serve it because my guest is paying for it. A lot of people like to give old foods. It's happened several times. I'm not saying it's not happened. I should be credible enough to say, I am not going to serve it. I should be credible enough to tell the owners, no, this will not go out. Like in America, there are rules and regulations. You can't serve anything that is cooked the previous year.
Leftovers.
Leftovers. Why aren't we following that here? Our chefs will go in America and follow those rules. They come back and they break the rules again.
But अपने यहाँ पे तो ये system is not there. Like FDA, how they have over there, it's
no. But it should come from you.
Okay.
As a person also, and that is why I say I like to take people who come from a catering college, where they've been taught the basics. This is something that a home cook will not have been taught. So a huge difference between a home cook and somebody who's actually had 3 to 4 years of culinary teaching.
Got it.
Not all colleges would be great,
Yes.
but at least you've got the foundation.
बट जैसे फूड एडल्ट्रेट हो जाता है तो हाउ मेनी ऑफ दीज पीपल जो यहाँ से क्रॉस करते हैं, एंड लेट्स बी ऑनेस्ट के बाहर जब भी आप दुनिया में जाएंगे और जब भी शेफ बनेंगे और देन यू विल बी पार्ट ऑफ सम किचन, तो वो जर्नी भी इतनी इजी नहीं बिकॉज सबको शेफ बनना है एज यू सेड. तो इसमें से भी ये लॉट में से भी कितने परसेंटेज जो लोग हैं वो स्टिल दे स्टे ट्रू टू दैट आर्ट लाइक व्हाट यू आर सेइंग, कि प्रेशर में आके वो भी बकल कर देंगे?
I think at least even if 10% do it, I think we've achieved a milestone.
Okay.
You know, if all don't do it, it's fine, but at least 10%. So that's why you're seeing a lot of chef-driven restaurants now. Of chefs जो बाहर गए और वापस आ रहे हैं, उनका एक खुद रेस्टोरेंट खोल रहे हैं, क्योंकि उनको प्रेशर नहीं है इन्वेस्टर से, कुछ भी है, वो delivering excellent food. You know. Interesting.
ओके, डेफिनेटली हम लोग काफी चीजों के बारे में बात करें तो वो लेयर्स में डेफिनेटली पील करना चाहता हूँ स्लोली. बट आपने बोला अबाउट मास्टर शेफ, ओके, तो एवरीबडी इज अ सेल्फ प्रोक्लेम्ड फूडी, जैसा मैंने स्टार्टिंग में भी बोला. एंड मुझे मास्टर शेफ ऑस्ट्रेलिया बहुत पसंद है. मतलब मैंने अभी एक करंट सीजन जो है वो भी ऑलमोस्ट मतलब मोस्ट एपिसोड्स देखे हैं और मुझे बहुत पसंद आता है. नॉट जस्ट कि वो खाने की वजह से, बट ऑल्सो बिकॉज हम ये टाइप ऑफ बिजनेस में भी है, तो हाउ इट गेट्स शॉट, कैसे शूट करना चाहिए, प्रोडक्शन क्वालिटी क्या होता है, वो सब भी सीखने के लिए, देखने के लिए बहुत मजा आता है, यू नो. तो इस बारे में जैसे आपने बोला कि मास्टर शेफ एक ऐसा कोई ऑर्गेनाइजेशन नहीं है जो आपको एक सर्टिफिकेट देता है कि आप मास्टर शेफ बन गए, आपको एग्जाम पास करनी पड़ती है, राइट? बट जो लोग मास्टर शेफ करके निकलते हैं वहां से, आर दे गुड और नॉट?
उनको घर का खाना बनाने को आता है. उनका स्किल्स लेवल्स ऑन स्केल 1 to 10 इट्स अ 1. क्योंकि जब वो लोग आते हैं, हम लोग उनको ग्रूमिंग करता है, ट्रेनिंग करता है, बिहाइंड द सीन्स बहुत चीज होता है जो प्री प्रेप भी होता है, क्योंकि शूटिंग का कॉस्ट इतना बड़ा है. और अगर ये लोग मेसअप करेगा तो 1 day शूट होता है 2 दिन के लिए या 3 दिन के लिए, कभी कभी 36 आवर्स का शूट होता था. क्योंकि ये लोग प्रोफेशनल स्पीड भी नहीं है और टेक्निक भी नहीं है, और जब ये चैलेंजेस आते हैं जो ये देते,
राइट,
वो पूरा ग्रूम हो जाता है उसके ऊपर.
अंडरस्टैंड.
लाइक जैसा 2 हफ्ता का ट्रेनिंग होता है शो होने के पहले, तो ये सब होते हैं क्योंकि उनको थोड़ा लेवल ऊपर बढ़ाने के लिए. और जब ये ऑस्ट्रेलिया टीम इधर आया था सीजन 1 सीजन 2 पे, वो लोग हमको सिखाया इनको कैसा शो बनाने के लिए. और तभी हम लोग मालूम था कि इनको थोड़ा ट्रेनिंग करने का है. वी हैव टू ग्रूम देम, ट्रेन देम, हाउ टू बी प्रेजेंटेबल ऑन कैमरा, हाउ टू प्रेजेंट फूड ऑन कैमरा, हाउ टू कुक फॉर द कैमरा. तो बट अपना इंडियन का टीम पूरा ड्रामा भी डाला अंदर बीच में. तो अगर जब आप कंपैरिजन करें ऑस्ट्रेलिया और इंडिया में, ऑस्ट्रेलिया में ड्रामा नहीं है, वो फूड का ड्रामा है. द लाइटिंग, द वे द फूड इज कैप्चर्ड, उनका एक्सप्रेशन जब वो अच्छा डिश बनाते हैं. अपना इंडियन वाला सब पूरा रोना धोना हो गया. और अब तक मैंने 2 शो किया है, अब तक एक एपिसोड भी देखा नहीं. पर ऑस्ट्रेलिया में जरूर देखे, क्योंकि द पैशन ऑफ फूड वाज देयर. और यू नो, you feel good about the chef who's presenting the food. You know, तो
मतलब वो एसेंस लार्जली बेसिकली आप बोल रहे हो कि वो एसेंस ऑफ व्हाट मेक्स मास्टर शेफ ऑस्ट्रेलिया इज कि उनका एसेंस इज फूड इज द हीरो.
Food is the hero.
Yeah, not drama like India में when it came, because I remember जब India में when they came they signed on Akshay Kumar, if I'm not mistaken,
yes.
as the first. मतलब वो भी एक सीजन मैंने भी देखा था because इतना उन्होंने पॉपुलराइज किया था and they had बोला था कि भाई मास्टर शेफ में इंडिया आ रहा है whatever and all that. तभी मैंने थोड़ा सा देखा था स्टार्टिंग में. So here it is more about drama and essence is not really food.
It's not the food.
Okay. How मतलब कैसे ये टाइप के शो शूट होते हैं? If you can just tell me.
So, about 6 months of planning, जो हम लोग का पूरा एपिसोड का ब्रेक डाउन करता है, we break it down with the production house and the TV channel कि ये 10 एपिसोड में ये क्या चैलेंजेस होएगा, हम लोग एंटिसिपेट भी करेगा कि ये लोग बनाएगा या नहीं बनाएगा, वो भी होता है. और obviously we kind of unintentionally guide them to prepare for that episode. We don't tell them the challenge before, but we say you need to learn a little bit of egg cooking or something, you know,
Sure.
or you need to learn about, say, vegan food. We won't tell them that the challenge is an XYZ challenge.
Right.
So 2 days before, they're mentally already thinking on recipes or
Yes.
around that.
A little bit of guidance is given in that
Guidance has
direction.
to be given because the channel is spending, say, if they're spending 1 crore for a 1-day shoot, they cannot have the contestant messing up. You can't take that risk.
Yes, absolutely.
So you have to look at the financial side of the whole thing.
Yes, understand. But is that, you think, I mean, see, I think one thing I'm very clear and I understand is that that the whole concept of MasterChef naturally is that people who are home cooks, they get this journey and this experience to become and turn out like probably something that they were not. Before and after experience should be like exponential and that level of increase should be great. So nothing to take away from that fact from them. But do you think this level of guidance also probably must be happening in MasterChef Australia as well?
Oh, everywhere. I'm sure. I think Australia also, they ensure that their contestants have to get a 1-month training in some place. So at least they know the basics.
Okay, which doesn't happen in India.
In India, somebody just comes and gives you a very 1-week thing, crash course kind of thing.
Got it.
Yeah.
Understand. What, like, so when you are saying that in the season 1 and season 2, when the Australian team came here, so where did things, do you feel, whatever, apart from drama, just like went off?
Yeah.
Where did they go off, you feel?
So, the credibility of the show, the credibility of the food, the credibility of, like the audience also, Indians love their food. They love to critique anybody who's cooking.
True.
They won't watch it just for the passion of it. Rather than critiquing it, just sit and watch the show. This is what I say. But we want to break it down, you know. And so that's where you start losing track of the show. Yeah,
actually, I'm not even sure. Is the show still going on?
It's still going on, but I don't even know.
Neither do I. I think I'm obviously, it speaks that they haven't been consistent. Maybe that's
no, they haven't been consistent. They've not been able to reach any. I think the average must be not even a 3 or a 4 on a scale. They have those ratings.
Right.
The ratings aren't even great for the MasterChef India.
I understand. Right. You mentioned about what do you call the credibility as a chef, wherein you will not put up anything on the plate if it doesn't cut it.
Yes.
You know, is that a difficult dilemma for a chef to be in? The cost versus the reality versus the that I'll not put this out to the guests.
See, end of the day, the guest is paying for it.
Right.
The guest is not paying for bad food.
Right.
So it is the onus on the chef to deliver great food. And you can only do that if you have been trained to do that. When the ethics comes into play. And sadly to say, ethics is not something that's taught in schools and colleges. I think it needs to be taught in schools and colleges. Because even when I was in the kitchens abroad, if you made a mistake, the chef would just either fling the plate or used to go in the trash can. You know, they were so strict about it. And that is something you take away when you're working with a Michelin star chef, for example. You're trained to deliver quality, you're trained to respect what the guest wants. And it is your reputation, you know, at the end of the day.
What is this pursuit of a Michelin star for a chef? I mean, like, Why is it so sought after?
It's big. I think it's sought after for the simple reason you're getting, besides the fame, you're getting an accreditation for it and you're being recognized for your work. So Michelin actually was by a car company.
Yes, it's a tire company.
Yeah,
yes.
and to get people to travel and to eat at restaurants along the way.
Oh.
So then they came out with a book for it. Okay.
Interesting.
So when a person gets 1 star, it means you're being recognized.
Okay.
There's no great shakes.
Okay.
It's when you get 3 stars is when
Big thing.
you're above everyone else. So 1 star, even when somebody says I've got 1 star, it's like you're being recognized. So, and they can take away your Michelin also.
Oh.
And your Michelin only comes for a year. So I recently read about somebody saying, I've got 8 Michelins. Okay. We all know who the chef is, but anyway, we won't get into that.
Yeah.
But 8, I started laughing because he has only 1 restaurant, which has only been given 1 Michelin.
So every year it gets one like that.
You can't say I've got 3, counting the ones from the back.
Right. Yeah. It's in that year.
In that year, you've only got 1. If it's taken away from you, then you get 0.
Got your point. Okay.
And you're not a Michelin star chef.
So
Let's break that even. The restaurant is given the Michelin, not the chef.
Got it. Okay. Can you tell us, break down, what is a 1 Michelin star, 2 Michelin star, and a 3 Michelin star?
So there's I think one is where you're a green star, which is you're kind of being recognized.
Is it still difficult to get as compared to a lot of the others, even a single star?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is. Because your restaurant has to start getting recognized. A lot of PR goes into getting that 1 star, that recognition. Like in Japan, there's a 2-seater restaurant in Japan, sushi restaurant, which has a 1 star. It's on a railway station.
Wow.
It's because your quality is above average. And that's 1 star. Then you have 2 stars, which is your good quality, and then there's excellence. So that's roughly the 3 stars.
Okay.
Which are given to a restaurant.
Okay. And the 3rd star is basically a combination of, if you've done 1 and 2 both, then it becomes 3rd, or 3rd requires a
hell of a lot of work to get it.
Okay.
I don't know. Nobody really knows the criteria on which they give it to you.
Right.
But I'm sure your excellence will have to be par excellence to get a 3 star.
Understand. And the way you get those stars is similar to how they show it in movies, in terms of the Michelin team does not even know who the Michelin is.
Yeah, people say you don't know who they are, but I'm sure people know. And yeah.
Okay. Because I've seen so many movies, and for example, Burnt.
A beautiful movie.
Amazing movie.
Yeah.
I think one of the best made movies on a chef's journey and how they create restaurants. So they say that they leave the fork down and.
No, yeah, they drop something. Probably don't even do that, but there's so many ways of noticing mistakes happening in a restaurant. Everything has to be precise to the T in those restaurants. So the level of perfection is very high. And that is, I think, a lot of our chefs who worked in Michelin restaurants, we bring back those things with us. And then getting our cooks to deliver at least 10% of that. Then that's an achievement.
Wow.
You know?
But why do you think that quality is difficult to match here?
One is the costs. Because the taxes are so high on anything that comes from abroad internationally. It's almost, I think, 18 and 28%, which is ridiculous. But getting good quality, you'll get it in for the first 6 months. Then you start wondering about your costs. Then you start, okay, where can I cut down on my costs? Can I get a cheaper ingredient? Can I get a cheaper quality? And that starts playing on the chef, And if you go to a Michelin restaurant, a lot of them abroad, they spend more on the kitchens than they spend on the decor of the restaurant. Here is the opposite. A lot of the fancy restaurants there, the kitchen is practically the size of the restaurant.
Oh.
You're not working in those
pigeonholes.
Yeah. So even for a kitchen and a restaurant, like a cafe, your kitchen is only supposed to be 10 to 15%. if it's a fine dining, your kitchen space should be about 30 to 35%.
That's a lot of real estate.
That's a lot of real estate, especially in Bombay. So where do you cut back is then your menu size becomes smaller. But yet you want to create this, what we call a Bible menu, where everything under the sun is in the menu.
Right.
And then your chefs can't deliver.
Right.
So then we say, oh, the restaurant quality has gone down. But the quality has gone down is because the guests are demanding more than what a kitchen can handle.
I understand. But do you think that level and thought process also in India will work, wherein you have a very narrowed down menu, because whether the customers now are even mature enough to understand that this is what they specialize in?
I think now they do understand. Because customers now are traveling. Past decade or so, we're seeing a lot of people traveling. After COVID, a lot of people are traveling to the jungles now.
Right.
Earlier, it used to be, Michael, why are you working in the jungle? And I used to say, you chefs don't want to touch those areas. But now the majority of the high-end clientele are not even traveling to big cities. They're going on jungle safaris, they're traveling to remote locations. And you're seeing like Ananda Spa. You're seeing like Antara and all that in Coorg and all. Several, and they're charging like what, 50,000 a night, 1 lakh a night, you know. So the food quality over there is now, from there is going up there. So you're seeing a whole shift of dynamics from the city to the rural space.
I understand.
And I've been in the rural space for quite a while. So I've seen that dynamic happen. And they want now excellent food. You're getting a lot of international tourists who are not interested in Jaipur and all these places anymore. Now, I want to go see tigers. I want to go see your national parks, because they don't have it there. So they'll spend 2 nights in Jaipur and then spend 5 nights in the national park. They want Indian food of a quality that they are used to.
I understand.
So now we have to train those staff to give that kind of quality.
I understand. It's about curating those experiences to make it interesting for them.
So I'm enjoying that part of my journey right now, is where I'm creating experiences, I'm creating culinary experiences, with wildlife, culinary experiences with photography, things like that.
Understand. But how much of that percentage is as compared to where like a MasterChef India sort of a situation is? How many of people like you are out there today who feel that this is the experience that you can create? So, like if you look at the chef who Sidhu or something, he started Nar in the mountains, you know, and now he's got a recognition of amongst the 50 Asian restaurants. Chefs are moving out of the city now. They are creating these unique spaces, which is out of the city, right? Where you travel to a destination for the food. Which is very similar to how you see in abroad as well. Yes. Yeah. Like for example, your Netflix pe Chef's Table hai. In that you have this one, if I'm not mistaken, I think the first season, there was a restaurant which is somewhere in Helsinki or somewhere in Denmark or Sweden, I'm not sure. Sweden it is. Sweden, which is like 100 miles from like the closest airport. And you come to, you eat at, your meal starts at 7. Right. And you stay the night there. And then you leave the next morning. Yeah. So that whole experience happens. Yeah. And that chef is again, it's a Michelin star restaurant, and they are booked out like 18 months in advance with just like 7 or 8 or 9 tables apparently. Like yeah. I mean, again, beautiful show and superbly shot. So yes, chefs are now doing that in India as well. Right. You know. Interesting. But in comparison to that, when you actually have like a mass market show like MasterChef India, how much of stuff is like bogus? And I mean, bogus may be like a very strong word. But how much of things are like kind of pre-prepped, and do you guys also have to feed like, what do you call, things to the contestants? See, a lot of the times, because of time constraints, things are pre-prepped for them. They cannot deliver at that level also, that finesse that is required. So, yes, you have to groom them, you have to train them. A lot of things happen behind the scenes to ensure that they are able to also
come up to the mark. So yes, there are things that are pre-prepped for them. This happens on any TV show. Okay, like even sometimes you see these kids MasterChef and you wonder how did they make that kind of a cake to that
level.
And for somebody like me, I know it's been done back end. You know, or there is somebody to help finish it. That goes without saying. It's done on any kind of show.
Got it.
So yeah, so that is not the reality that you want to show to budding chefs.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to ask. Is it like also in terms of, because a lot of it is going on the back end, is it also chaotic on sets? I'm assuming it must be.
On the set, no, it's very controlled. Back end is very chaotic.
Like?
Because you're prepping the pantry from where they collect the ingredients.
Right.
The food team is prepping that. You're prepping a lot of their ingredients that are kept in their table. So the minute shooting stops, or whilst it is rolling, even a lunch break, the food team is actually getting things ready for the next part of the shoot. So lunch break for the food team is practically non-existent. And that is something I used to protest about. I said, you all are getting a lunch break, but we are not getting a lunch break. So I became bad guy. But at the same time, I have to protect my team now.
Right.
If they are hungry and not able to deliver, your show is going to have a bad rep. So a lot of issues used to happen. Then sometimes you have a thing like the judges also don't know how to make a certain dish. So the food team has to get involved. You know? So a lot of things happen back end, which is very chaotic.
So what is the longest that you guys have shot?
So I think the longest has been about 36 hours to 40 hours, where the set is going on and on. For the food team, it was 72 hours was our longest. You know, because at the same time, the food team is out shopping, then the shoot starts. Then we already, they may have stopped at 32 hours, but we are already prepping for the next day. So they've gone and taken their break, but my food team has to again go out shopping, come back, get the set ready for the next day. So for us, it was, I think for 6 months after that, we didn't want to work.
Wow. I'm sure. I mean, that's like a long working day. Yeah.
I just told my team, you just take a 3-month break and we'll talk after that.
Wow. Do you think this is similar that it happens internationally as well in other MasterChefs?
All of them.
Yeah?
All of them. So with Australia, there are 2 teams or 2 or 3 teams.
Okay.
With India, there's only 1 team. So that is the difference of quality. Because then there's 1 team who's on the set, 1 team who's doing something else. We were just a team of 5 of us, you know, doing everything. So
understand, right? But does MasterChef not have like a say in all this in terms of, okay, look, I mean, at the end of the day, it's their name at stake as well.
I think.
Or is it? It's just a franchisee model, and they're like, we don't care, give us the money.
Yeah. So
interesting. Interesting. I want to come back to also this aspect where you mentioned about how, example of the butter chicken, right? Like how it is actually, being a chef, obviously, you know, how does a top quality restaurant's kitchen work today? I mean, both a very top quality one and what would be the corners that would be cut in a not top quality restaurant?
So top quality restaurants have very small menus. They don't have large menus. You come to eat that restaurant's food rather than a guest dictating what he wants. It is more chef oriented. So the chef says, this is my cuisine, this is what I've made, and this is what you eat. Compared to average restaurant, I won't say average, but a regular restaurant, which gives what the guest wants. So he's not really bothered about guest ko palak paneer de raha hai na. Palak paneer you get at home also, but yet a guest will still want palak paneer at a restaurant.
Right.
I can eat a chapati or roti at home, but yet I'll still eat the chapati and roti at the restaurant instead of wanting to try something new. And that is where the new age restaurants are saying, this is our food, this is the authentic food, and now eat it. I'll give you another example. In the earlier days, we used to have pasta, for example. We considered white sauce, red sauce, and any other sauce you call it.
Mhm.
And that's how they call it also. They don't call it by the name.
Yes.
And it was served to you.
Mm.
So today, when you go to an authentic Italian restaurant and ask for a carbonara, for example, you'll say, what are you giving me?
Mm.
Because what is ordinary for you is already extraordinary.
Right.
And when you're given the extraordinary, you're saying this is
Not good.
not good. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. So in fact, this is like this another I don't know myth which I learned like the harder way in an Italian restaurant internationally. There is nothing called a spaghetti.
no.
Yeah. What is the
So
what is
there are
it
different kinds of spaghetti, for
Okay.
example.
called?
So you have a fettuccine, you'll have even the width and thickness is different
Right.
of your spaghetti.
Hmm.
So you have to know which one you want.
Got it. So I actually learned it like the hard way when I was traveling internationally and I went to an Italian restaurant and I told them, okay, can you please give me a spaghetti? So he's like, we don't serve that.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, okay. So I was like, meaning what? So they're like, what do you mean? So I whipped up the photo and I showed them. So they said it's linguini.
Yeah, it's linguine.
Yeah. So they said there's nothing in Italy. If you ever go to anybody and call a spaghetti, they'll be like, what
No.
the hell is that?
And then there's also the size of the linguine.
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah, but that was like
So- Yeah. So you'll get angel hair pasta, which is also thin and long,
right.
which is like a spaghetti.
Interesting. Yeah, it was so interesting. So he said, next time when you go to an Italian restaurant, please don't ever ask for the spaghetti.
No, don't
Say
ask
it's a
for it.
linguini.
Yeah, just say
He's like, and then he said, authentic Italian restaurant, please
Yeah.
make sure that that's the case. But again, that was, I think, one of the best linguinis that I've ever had.
Mm.
Oh, it was so good. I couldn't believe it that it can taste like so
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Interesting. What happens to any of the dishes which actually get sent back by the guests back to the kitchen? Usually.
Usually it is a fresh dinner. Like if it's a top-end restaurant, they'll make a fresh plate.
Okay.
Okay. These guys normally keep it on the side and sometimes staff or something will finish it off. But
Right.
ideally it should be thrown out.
Got it.
Okay. If it comes back for whatever reason, it's thrown out and a fresh plate is made.
But does it happen a lot?
Yes. Most of the time it happens.
It does. You gave an example of like some of butter chicken, which is basically the previous day.
So what happens is your tandoor, everything is half cooked and kept.
Oh.
Now, if it's not sold in an order, it's going to go waste. And that is used to make butter chicken. Okay, they'll take it, they'll freeze it, next day add it wherever. And that is done in some restaurants. Ideally, I would say have it freshly made and then, so a top-end restaurant will not do these things.
Okay.
But when you go to your dhabas and all that, they're not going to waste that stuff.
I understand.
They'll
Right.
take it, put it into their freezer.
But is that a bad thing if it's just a previous night's like kind of thing and then
Ideally, it's bad.
it is bad?
Because you're taking something that is cooked, then cooled, and then put into the fridge. The thing is, you have to cook it and immediately it goes into the fridge. So the bacteria...
If you want to preserve it.
Yeah, so that the bacteria doesn't start growing. So the minute it starts cooling, your bacteria is going to start growing. So now these are little things that a home cook will not know. A professional chef will know. He'll say, no, cook it. It's immediately put into your GN pans, sealed into the blast freezer. You know? So then it's fine because then the bacteria is not allowed to accumulate and all that.
I understand. But why is in general, like, what do you call the food quality of what we do here in India is just probably getting worse day by day? Do you think, first of all, it's getting worse?
I think it's getting worse.
Okay.
In a lot of areas, the food quality is getting worse because your tax is so high, your economics is so high. Your rent kills the restaurant in the first place, especially in Bombay. So then you're more worried about those economics than actually giving good food to your guests. And that's the change you start seeing after a year of a restaurant being running. You're cutting corners, or you're not paying vendors on time, or you're asking vendors to give you something cheaper. You start out with a caliber, and then after you say, okay, start giving me a cheaper quality of chocolate. So all these things happen. Then you start, as a guest, a regular, you'll start saying the quality is down.
I understand. How difficult is it to run a successful restaurant in?
Very tough.
Very tough.
Because your business is dependent on a guest. Your business is not dependent on something that is continuous.
But do you think that chefs ideally, like they say that chefs aren't really successful at running restaurants? Do you think that's true or false?
I think it's false.
Okay.
If they've not learned the business acumen on the way, then it'll crash. You have to learn the business acumen along the way to make it a successful restaurant. Most chefs don't want to look into the accounts and stuff like that. I'm also one of those. Looking at finances, looking at accounts, looking at the balance sheets. I'd rather say now somebody else to look into it.
Right.
But you have to learn that along the way. Is what I say to all chefs. You have to learn the business side of it. Do a course in business management or something, which will teach you the business of running a restaurant. Then it'll be profitable. Then also may or not be also. Because it also depends on logistics. Where is the location? Is there parking space? Are your guests loving the food? Like when I did South American cuisine in 2018, nobody was interested. Today, South American cuisine is booming. Next is going to be Vietnamese now, because that is already on the rise.
Right.
And that's very close to Indian cuisine. So in another few years, you're going to see a trend going towards back to Southeast Asia.
Interesting.
Your Thai cuisine, your Vietnamese cuisine. So it's a cycle that happens. And if you're not in tune with that cycle, it'll go down.
But does it also mean that then, because there's a trend and it keeps changing, then you have to keep refreshing your menu as well?
You refresh your menu, you refresh your skills, all that. And a lot of them don't want to refresh their skills. So if a half-baked cook has come out of some place, he's still going to make those 10 dishes he knows. So a chef is somebody who is willing to explore, willing to change. So then like we were trying to differentiate between a chef and a cook. The chef is willing to
experiment, innovate as well. What is the journey of someone who actually today, say for example, has just come out of college and then wanting to do that journey towards opening their restaurant?
Is learn everything on the way, start being very observant. I always tell them, don't say no to anything. If a chef has told you to do dishwashing, do dishwashing. Do everything that the chef tells you. Because they start feeling resentful about doing certain things, and then when they start to leave, or they say, this is not my career. Your career actually blossoms after 4 years. Because when a chef sees you doing everything, he'll say, okay, now I'm giving you another opportunity. I'll keep giving you opportunity. But the minute you are being negative, then the chef will be negative against you. And like I've said, Anthony Bourdain worked as being dishwasher. It's when you know which plate is required when for the chef. And that is all dependent on your dishwasher. If he is not washed in a certain order, you'll never get your plates on time. You'll never get the plate that has to go with this particular dish on time. Because it's still in the dishwasher.
Right.
Now he knows that my dessert plates have to come out. My starter plates and my dessert plates are almost the same. So if he's not washed the starter plates, you're going to get no place for desserts. Now, as a chef who's worked in dishwashing, you know that when you are a chef, I'm able to delegate that job.
Right.
So if I'm not worked in dishwashing, how will I know all this? And that's why we tell our young guys who are coming out of catering college, there's no harm in dishwashing. There's no harm. You watch The Bear? Have you watched the series called The Bear?
No.
Watch it. He's this brilliant chef who wants his Michelin. He's worked in Michelin, wants a Michelin. And they show him scrubbing the counters with his team, cleaning the counters. Why are they showing it to you? Because that's also the journey of becoming a chef. You drop something on the floor, you clean it. Don't wait for somebody from housekeeping come.
Understand.
Yeah.
So possibly when along in that journey, when your time will come to become like a head chef, then you will know that
every detail.
Yes, that if your dessert plates are not washed, then your starter plates won't go, and stuff like this. Okay.
Yeah.
It's very practical, but a very important information which you learn on the job. Understand. You said about like these catering colleges. Do you still feel that, but being a chef or being in the hospitality industry is a popular job or a career option today?
I think we've not sold it well to the audience.
It's a very interesting
We show the glamour side of it. You have to sell the unglamour side. We've sold the TV chefs, we've sold the cookbook authors, we've not shown the journey of these cookbook authors to become a cookbook author. We've not shown the journey of Jamie Oliver being a cook. He was a regular cook.
Yes.
And he was known for his speed in cooking. And that's when he was seen by TV and became a TV chef. We know their stories, but we don't know the stories of our guys. They know how to sell themselves, which is something like I do a lot of self-branding for myself and I tell my other chefs that I work, start branding yourself. And how do you brand yourself? Like we were going to talk a little later about photography, but you do it through the visual medium. I've never eaten a Gordon Ramsay restaurant, so I've worked in one of his restaurants, but never eaten his food. But yet we all want to eat his food. Yeah. It should be the same for our chefs also. We want to go and experience their food.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand. But do you think in terms of just purely people as well, do you think the number of people who are actually aspiring to go into these colleges is dropping?
It has dropped. The intake after COVID has been very low. A lot of colleges are struggling to get in quality students.
What's the issue? Why is it a generational issue?
I think it's also a generation issue. They don't want to work the 10-hour shift, 12-hour shift. They don't realize, you do those 12 hours, 14 hours for the first 2-3 years. After that, it's a cakewalk. But they don't want to put in that
effort.
Because see, you're dealing with food. You can't tell the food, okay, now you cook yourself in 8 hours. Mutton is going to take time for it to cook. Certain vegetables will take time. To make a stock is 8 hours. To make any kind of stock is over 8 hours. So the guy is there watching it bubbling, boiling, everything is your responsibility. So you can't say, my clock is up, I'm going. You can't. So that's the difficulty with the food business.
I understand. Right. You said about Gordon Ramsay. So it's very interesting that you use that example, and I'm trying to understand who in the Indian sphere is like that. Like, let's say a Sanjeev Kapoor.
Nah.
I mean, I'm not saying, look, again, I'm not from the industry, so I don't know. But I'm saying from a kind of a celebrity sort of, because I think Gordon Ramsay has also made himself.
He's made himself into a celebrity.
Exactly.
I mean, from being a footballer, coming into
being a chef.
Being a chef. And like for me, I can talk about these guys because I know their stories. You ask me the name of any Indian chef, sorry, I don't even know their story. For me
it's not been communicated well.
There's no communication.
Would you say like a Sanjeev Kapoor is a good businessman?
He's an excellent businessman, I'd say. But as a chef, I've eaten at Yellow Chili and sorry, the food is...
Yeah. Do you think he's ever been to that kitchen?
I wouldn't know, but I wouldn't even go down that.
Yeah. What they say about a lot of these restaurants in terms of kitchen, is it true? Like they say that of course it's beautiful on the outside, but inside it is not really as clean. They say this about a lot of 5-star hotels as well.
Yeah, so I liked it when the Marriott and the Hyatt and all came in. They started bringing standards to their kitchens. The quality of the kitchens were brilliant. The architecture of the kitchens were brilliant compared to our old school kitchens. Because they brought in standards, they brought in SOPs. They brought in the flow of work that happens in a kitchen. You know, like I was reading, it's a symbiotic relationship between each cook. Everyone knows what the other one's doing on the side, you know, which is like we talk about mindfulness also these days. And that is something I've been trying to teach my cooks. Whilst you're cooking, be mindful about what the guy next to you is making, doing. He needs space, he needs this. And when there's lack of space in a kitchen or because of poor kitchen design, that goes out of the window. You've got 12 people working in a confined space. When you have an office, you want your own cubicle, you want your own blah, blah, blah. And in a kitchen, you want to just pump them all into 400 square feet, 12 people working in a hot kitchen. Angers flare up, tempers flare up, attitudes come into play. And all of this, who's controlling all of this? Is the chef. And that's why he's called a chef, because he has to control all of this. Now, home cook won't be able to do this. You have 2 boys in the house and you grumble about their attitude.
Right.
I have to deal with 12 of them when I'm handling 10 restaurants. I'm dealing with 120 people. I'm dealing with their house problems. I'm dealing with their family problems. They probably kill their grandmothers 10 times over.
Right.
So your job as a chef is 10% is the food or 10% is on the range. The rest is dealing with menus, dealing with guests, dealing with accounts, dealing with managers, dealing with the owners, dealing with landlords. Then from here, how do I expand my business?
Right.
Yeah. How do I go from here to this level? And I can only go to this level when I start delegating and when I start trusting my team. The minute you start trusting your team that all is well, I can then get into creating books. I can create my own TV show. I can create my parallel incomes.
I understand.
A lot of these famous chefs all have parallel incomes.
Right.
In India, we don't teach people about parallel incomes.
Yeah. Interesting. How do you suggest that in that case, like today, an Indian chef should brand themselves?
One, start creating your own signature dishes around Indian cuisine. This is my signature dish. Butter chicken is not my signature dish. This is my signature dish. Then, how do I sell the signature dish to a food brand? How do I work with a food brand to create books or booklets for that food brand? So one of my first job assignments whilst I was working was creating books for, these ovens come out with these 10 or 20 recipes inside that booklet.
Yes.
That was my first thing that I was doing at the age of 23 or something. I did the Bajaj, Murphy Richards. I was doing their booklets, 20 recipes, 10 recipes. That was parallel and side income for me. So, okay, the hotel is paying me 5,000 rupees a month. But sometimes I'll be making more outside here.
Right.
But it's a parallel income. It helps support the other expenses I have. I want to buy a new camera. Where does the money come from?
Right.
My first camera, Wilco Publishers, right?
Yes.
They said, Michael, we want to do a book for kids on ingredients. So I said, I've got this camera with me. It's a slide camera. Digital camera has just come out. They said, Michael, how much does it cost? This costs about 60,000 and all. So I think the 20D, the Canon 20D or something, one of the first ones. Gives me the check, I go buy the camera. So I didn't have to save money to buy my first camera.
I understand.
The job, I said, you want this quality?
You have to invest into it.
Invest in it. So learning business on the side is important for becoming a chef.
Understand.
Using opportunities.
But in terms of like branding, to take yourself from a level A to a level B, how do you do that? Like apart from one of the things you said is to create your signature dishes. Next is to work with.
Start being visual. Visual, I mean by meeting people, networking. Not everybody you network with is going to give you business, but they take your name further. Oh, I know XYZ chef, he's doing this, why don't you get in touch with him?
Right.
Chefs are very introverts. A lot of them are introverts. They don't want to go out of their comfort zone.
Right.
They have to go out of the comfort zone. And a lot of the owners don't like them also going to meet other people. That's another thing you face with. But at the end of the day, you have to say, this is my life. This is what I want to do and achieve.
Right. Right.
You know? And mentoring. I think mentoring is something which is also important. Whereas senior chefs need to mentor the junior chefs. It doesn't happen.
Okay.
You know? Today you can message a Gordon Ramsay on, even on email and his PR team will reach out to you. Try messaging one of our guys. Nobody will even reach out back to you. And that's the Indian system. Nobody gets back to you. And which I find very sad about. Because you've reached that level, then mentor the kids. You know, give them the stepping stone to,
Right. But today, being such a visual medium, like even social media and stuff like that, I mean, I actually have like come to think of it. I'm trying to think how many chefs have I really come across who really have like a very strong social media presence as such. Do you think that's a lost opportunity?
It is a lost opportunity. Because a lot of them are hiring the social media teams to do your work. Your voice is not coming out. When you do it yourself, your voice comes out.
Right.
If I'm getting a social media, they'll tell you, okay, do 10 posts, some algorithm or the other. Let the algorithm be. You start speaking on topics, on subjects. Show that you're an authority on that subject. You know?
But where do you think you can get the time? Like if you have
a very make the time, I think.
But if you like have a very busy restaurant, say assuming like whatever, and you, as you said, that you're doing a lot of firefighting as a chef, where do you get the time?
So on your day off, for example, give that 2 hours. Give that yourself half an hour. You know, a lot of the best-selling authors give themselves those 2 hours in the morning, 6 to 8. So there's nobody disturbing you. Get up early, do that. Even if you write 1 page a day, you've got 365 pages at the end of the year. Compile it, put it together, give it to somebody to make it into a book, a recipe booklet for some company or a corporate or something. You know.
But do you think doing that is easy as a chef? Like how, like, I mean, I know that there are a lot of chefs ideally, so it is not like, what do you call, there are like hundreds of companies who are always constantly looking for collaboration.
No, everybody's looking for a collaboration.
Is it?
Everyone, you know. So then what happens is they start reaching out to the known names. Why do they reach out to the known names? Because they don't have access to these guys. If you're at least on social media and replying to your messages, you'll start, I'm sure there are people reaching out to you, you just not bother to reply to your messages.
It's interesting, I mean, like how, and I'm surprised as well actually that how these chefs, I mean Indian chefs per se, have not really used social media as a tool. Actually, once we finish this chat, I'm actually going to look up as well some of these top chefs to see what they've been doing. Probably the algorithm doesn't really show me much because I'm not into that industry. But I also wanted to talk about, you know, failures. Because like you said, that it's very important today for a chef to be not just a good chef, but more importantly to run a successful business. It's about being a good businessman. As a leader, you always take the glory, but you always have to deal with failure as well. Do you think chefs take failure well?
I don't think they take failure well because our schools don't teach us to take failure. जब हम लोग स्कूल पे जाता है, आपका बहन, आपका कजिन फर्स्ट में आ रहा है, सेकंड आ रहा है, आप क्या कर रहे हैं? आपसे पास हो रहा है. They start comparing you to which I think is wrong to do.
Yeah.
We are not. आप 10वीं फेल हो गया तो you will not get a job. आप 12वीं फेल हो गया, you will not get a job. That is the first basis of learning from failure. It's just an exam which somebody else is correcting. You know. So, as a nation, we are not taught to handle failure or to handle burnout, for example. Burnout happens when you're only focused on one thing. You know, you've got family, you've got responsibilities, you've got your job. मैं शेफ हूँ, मैं दाएं बाएं देखने को भी नहीं सकते. That's how they think. Like again, like that parallel income. मेरा parallel income cannot be my profession. It has to be something not related to it. Go travel, go experience new food, just experience life. क्योंकि हम लोग 12-14 घंटा होटल में ही है. We are not even taking holidays. Why? क्योंकि दिवाली का टाइम, क्रिसमस टाइम, न्यू ईयर्स टाइम हम लोग सिर्फ होटल में ही है.
It's busy time.
It's busy time. Then my children, not my children, I don't have kids, not married, which is great. But most of them have kids. When he gets off, his kids are in school, so he can't take a holiday at the same time. But then they start burning out. No, you work for 8 months, take 3 months off.
But then what happens to like a busy restaurant at that time, or delegate?
Delegate. Trust your team. Delegate. कि मैं बाहर जा रहा हूँ, so I can learn something new. I can learn something different. I want to know about Japanese cuisine. I want to know about South American cuisine, whatever cuisine. The culture. The culture also plays an important role on the food. The other day I met a chef who I went down south and I put South Indian dishes on my menu and I modernized it and all that. And me being me, I said, you went and spent 1 week or you spent 6 months over there? And then I got my dirty looks, which was, go live with them. That's what I love about these Europeans and Americans. They'll take a 1 year off. They'll go to Thailand, live in Bangkok. They'll scrub tables. They'll backpack. They'll do imbibing a culture. You know, imbibe a culture and then put it onto the plate. Then the story becomes real. Not, okay, I went to Italy, I spent 1 week and now I'm making pasta in my restaurant. No. Like how you brought out the spaghetti story.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think, do people even have that luxury practically?
So, like, after 3-4 years, you do have that luxury, you don't take the opportunity. Then the fault is yours.
Got it. But is there really an off-season time as such for a restaurant? Like you used an example of Diwali and Christmas, or some of the other bigger festivals. Let's use these two as the biggest festivals because they really are. What are the other times that a chef can really take off like for a couple of months and be like, okay, look, I want a break?
You must, one, write it in your contract that you will be taking it. So then we also don't believe in contracts. I've learned hard way of not dealing with contracts. But in your contract, say that either the hotel pays for it or I'll do it myself. But I want to do something different.
Okay. So ideally, but like, would you call a chef? What is his 365 day like?
It's in the hotel. They live, breathe, everything is in the hotel.
Not even Sundays?
Not even Sundays, because your day offs are usually on a Tuesday or a Wednesday.
1 day a week?
1 day. When you're an executive chef, maybe you'll get 2 days. But busy season, even those go up for a toss.
Wow. So a regular, like whatever chef or a regular kitchen, usually, say for example, if it's a 5-star, like a Taj or something, so the kitchen works throughout whatever the year, of course, naturally, but
365 days, 24 hours.
But the people who are behind in the kitchen, like they would probably just get 1 day off.
You get 1 day off.
Is that healthy? Is that good?
But then, the demand is so high. You can't help it.
Restaurants like these, hotel chains like these, they have like a very high bar.
They have a high bar, and that's why the burnout is faster. And especially for our youngsters today who are not groomed for that kind of pressure, the burnout is even faster.
I understand.
See, when we were young, we didn't have the distractions of Instagram, Facebook, all that. You were focused. Like when I was in the jungle, we had a lot of Adivasis coming to work with us. In 1 year, this young girl was making better bread, as good bread as one of my 5-star chefs. Because it's total focus. She's making French bread, she's making croissants, she's making everything. It makes me feel proud as a chef to see her grow.
Of course.
But I'm getting these kids coming over, half the time they're on their phones, they're on Instagram. I'm like, your 8 hours is work time. You're getting paid for it. You're not getting paid to be on Instagram for those 8 hours. If it's an emergency, I don't mind. So now all phones are left at the entrance.
So no distractions.
No distractions.
How much of that level of experimenting and innovation does a chef do after what you call reaching that whatever, not I would say closer to a burnout level?
Then it kind of dies out. The experimenting dies out. When I had Nueva in Delhi, at the end of every shift, my staff had to take the leftovers, make and create a dish. They will evaluate it, whether we can put it on the next menu or not. So what happened was, they are thrilled to do it.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting for them. Not every chef will do that. This is something I learned in the UK, where my chef would come and say, you're cooking tomorrow's lunch or you're cooking tomorrow's dinner for the staff. It's not left to the utility guy to cook the staff lunch or dinner. One chef every day is doing it. So he does. Michael, you're from India, you'll make an Indian dish. You're from South America, you will make a South American dish for lunch. Everybody started tasting each other's regional foods. And then he would put it on the menu. And he would say it on the menu, my sous chef's dish or my XYZ's dish. That is something I took back with me. That give them that stepping stone. I may be becoming famous, but let them get famous too. And it's on the menu. A chef XYZ's dish. He's from South America, a little story about that dish. Right. They're short menus, a la carte, table d'hôte menus. And you were proud that the chef is putting somebody else's
dish on the menu here.
Yeah.
What is the biggest difference between, apart from this, if you can give like 4 or 5 points of the biggest difference between international chef versus the Indian chef?
I think the main difference is they are more acceptable to change. They love experimenting. Their communication skills are very good. And they encourage communication skills within the staff. We want to have that hierarchical system where we don't want a lower end guy talking to the executive chef.
Directly.
No. They don't mind it. They'll come and talk with you. They'll come and have a cup of chai with you. They don't mind sitting on the floor and eating with you. Yeah? We are the ones who have the hang-ups. And that's one of the major differences, communication, I feel.
And vis-a-vis international restaurant to Indian restaurant?
When international restaurants come to India, they bring in a lot of SOPs. That's your protocols and systems. And I think that is very important for us to learn from those systems and protocols. Because it standardizes everything. So tomorrow my sous chef is on his day off. My junior cook can make the same dish as a sous chef can make. We are still in that Bawarchi system where the ustad hai na. Ustad is not going to teach you.
Mm.
So when the Ustad is on leave, your food quality plummets.
Right.
You have to break that system. Where Ustad is on leave, okay, fine. My cook can make the same dish.
Right.
They only teach the guys how to cut onions or anything, how to use a knife properly. I'm like, you know the basics, then teach them the basics.
Right.
They don't want to do that. And that is one of our failures.
I understand. Right. What's the funniest story in your experiences that you've come across? Let's say 3. Let's take 3.
I think
give us anecdotes. Like really.
Yeah. So I think one of my was I'd speak to them in Hindi, and was in Lucknow. We were setting up these dhabas in Lucknow, these very fancy dhabas on the highway, and I told these guys, "Aap log 11 baje wapas aa jao." And there everything is up.
Right.
And I said, "Tu." Very Bombay, no?
Yeah.
11 baje, 11 baje. I'm showing 2 fingers.
Right.
Pura team came at 2 o'clock. Sir, आपने ऐसा दिखाया ना? But I think for me it was a lot of my communication skills with the local staff,
right,
which has created a lot of funny moments for me. Because they after I've given them my usual spiel, 15-20 minutes of bhashan, and then I leave the kitchen, and Mugdha, who works with me, will go into the kitchen, and then they'll all tell her, "Chef ने जो बताया ना, आप हमको बता दीजिए, क्योंकि हम लोग कुछ भी समझा नहीं." And I'm like, "Oh God." So then I started learning, I'll take Mugdha with me, then I will say my bit, then she will explain it, then I'll say my bit. So these are some of the funny things that happened. Sometimes dishes would go wrong, and in my younger years, I would have this horrible temper, go and fling something or the other. And then I realized that the fault is not with them, the fault is me. Because Mugdha used to come and say, "Chef, they don't know. They're village boys. You've got to come down, step down from your high horse." But then, you're a Cordon Bleu chef, they are not. So then I had to come down to that level. And for me, it was very hilarious because I probably didn't take it positively the first time she told me. And I said, "You don't know what you're talking about." And we used to have our little riffs in the kitchen itself. And everyone would burst out laughing because they found it hilarious.
Right.
And then after that, I started realizing that you have to come down to their level.
Yeah. To explain it to them,
you have to.
Yeah. Got your point. Understand. And internationally,
internationally, from day one, they come down to your level. They come down to the level where they will stand with the guy and show him how to cut an onion or peel a potato or how to do a technique properly. Like I was in UK at one of the restaurants, and I'm a pastry chef, and I got hauled out into the kitchen because they were short-staffed, and we were prepping ingredients, and chef says, the executive chef, "Just turn some potatoes and give it to me." I looked at him and, "Chef, how do you turn it?" And I was so embarrassed. I was in those days skinny as anything, and these guys, all these hefty British guys. So, being an Indian, you don't open your mouth also because looks at me. "You don't know how to turn a potato?" And I fully expected him to come out with a barrage or something.
Right.
So he just comes. "I'm going to show it to you just once." Tuck, tuck, tuck. He did. I look at him. "Chef, can you do it slowly, no?" Again. And he does it slowly. But that's the difference between these guys. They come down to your level. They take that 2 minutes to show it to you, which is something I don't see with these guys. When I was at the Taj here, I had the pastry chef who you did what you want. You never even asked him, or how do I ice a cake or anything. It was the other juniors who taught us. The cooks taught us.
I understand. Meaning like the pastry chef would not really share or mentor what the technique is.
No.
But is it because of lack of time, or is it just because they don't want to?
They just don't want to. So that's when, like I said, the burnout comes in. You know, they've reached that level where I'm just getting my salary packet. I want to go home. Yeah. Like even today, you don't see any of the big chefs going to a college to teach, which I feel is essential. You need to go to colleges, even if it's a 1-week session or 1-day session.
Yeah, because I'm like trying to think of some other schools and colleges where you have always these guest lecturers who always come in as a specialty to even at XIC, for instance.
XIC.
You
Vaksha does it.
Right.
You know?
Who's Vaksha?
Vaksha is welcome group in Manipal, one of the best colleges.
I understand.
So they bring in a lot of chefs to come and teach for a week. So they have a cheese making course. Even Symbiosis does it. They have a cheese making thing. Somebody comes and teaches boulangerie. Somebody teaches something else. But they're not the high-end chefs. They don't want to come.
Got it.
You know?
Understand. Great. Such an interesting conversation, Michael. Thank you so much, because as I said that, I mean, food is something which is, like you said in the beginning as well, that everybody in India is like a food critic, which reminds me, like, what do you think about food critics in India?
I would always say a food critic in India, go work in a restaurant first and then come and critique the food.
But do you think that it's the same abroad as well, where like people who write well and kind of connect with the people?
So like again, I come to this point where after they have been not thrown out of the house, by the age of 18, they're on their own. They have actually worked as waiters or as cooks in a restaurant, because that's where you get your pocket money to pay for your college tuition. You're already interacting with chefs, cooks on a basic level, but you have a basic level. Now here you've got somebody who has never worked a day in her life in a kitchen, coming to critique my food. And I have worked at it for 33 decades or 30 years. I've got top-end chefs who work in Michelin star restaurants, and you are critiquing their food. I can agree if another chef comes and critiques my food. Okay. I've had so-called these blogger types coming. What is a macaron? And I'm like, hello, you're going to be writing about it. Do some research before coming to meet me. Like, I know, and mom used to teach you guys also.
Right.
It was do your research before you.
Yes.
None of these kids want to do that research.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think in the day and age of like these social influencers, and even like, for example, a lot of these vloggers, as you say, I was actually just discussing with the team yesterday that what it takes to be, a good food critic. I felt it was more, and maybe I could be wrong, when you present this perspective, it becomes very interesting. I personally feel that it is people who usually were good at writing, and then they can connect with the people. So they are able to then possibly bring out the flavor of the food into words to connect it with a larger audience.
But you have to also know the right flavors.
That's what, yes.
If you don't know the right flavor, how can I write about it? At the most, they'll say it was good or bad.
Got it. But then someone who's not, would you call, possibly worked in this industry, then you think they are not fit to be
I don't think they're fit to be.
Got it. But are there enough chefs who are turning into writers for them?
There's so many of them, but the thing is, then they're being overshadowed.
Again, I think if they were to project themselves more on like socials, then...
So they need to project themselves on social media. They need to talk about it, be vocal about it, write stories about it, be seen,
Understand.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, Michael.
It was lovely.
You had fun. Yeah, it was really, really interesting. It was great to meet you, of course, as usual. So thank you.
It was a pleasure.